Hello there. We've gone live. It's 5 p.m. here in the UK. A very good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you all, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are joining us. You're very welcome. Thank you for being here for this session, introducing you to the Ertegun programme and in particular the Ertegun Scholarship application process. My name is Jonathan Cross. I'm the director of the Ertegun programme and the senior scholar in residence. I'm also professor of musicology in the university, and I shall be chairing this session today. And before I say anything else, I'd like to introduce you to all the people that we have on the call with us. And first of all, and most important of all, the person that knows everything is our administrator, Dr. Maria Kouroumali. Do you want to say hello, Maria?
Hi, everyone. You've probably seen my name pop up. I am the Ertegun administrator, so I'll be talking a bit more later. Nice to see you all.
Thank you, Maria. And I'm also very pleased that we have with us Tristan Marris, who is from the University Graduate Admissions Office, so has a broad view of the application process as a whole.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Yes, as Jonathan says, I'm Tristan. I work in the Graduate Admissions and Recruitment Office. So if you have any questions about applying in general, not just to Ertegun, please do let me know later and I will do my best to address those.
Thank you very much, Tristan. We'll come back to you shortly. And I'm also delighted to say that we have 4 of our current scholars with us. All 4 of them joined the programme this year, so they've been in Ertegun House now for a couple of months, and they will have the opportunity later to share their fresh experiences with you, and also will say something about their experience of applying. Would you like to say hello? Tell us where you are and what course you're on. And in the order on my screen, I can see Vero first.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Vero. I am originally from Mexico City, and I am currently doing the Master's in Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies.
Fantastic. Thank you, Vero. Akshaj.
Hi, I'm Akshaj. I'm from India, and I'm actually in India right now. I just came from Oxford for the break. So I'm reading for my MPhil in Islamic Art and Architecture at the Faculty of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. But yeah, like Vero, I just joined Ertegun House this year.
Thank you very much. And next, Jan.
Hi, I'm Jan. I'm originally from the Czech Republic. Right now I'm staying in Paris for a couple of days visiting a friend, and I am reading for the BPhil in philosophy. I'm in the 2nd year of the course, so I joined Ertegun House last year already.
Thank you. Of course you did. I said you were all fresh-faced, and of course, Jan, you're not. You're an extremely experienced member of the Ertegun community. Forgive me. And last but not least, we have Han.
Hello, everyone. I'm Han. I'm originally from China, and I am reading a MSc in History of Science, Medicine, and Technology. And I'm also a new scholar.
Great. Thank you all 4 very much for making the time to be with us. Already, I hope you get a sense of how deep and broad the Ertegun community is. Women's studies, Islamic art, philosophy, history of science. It's a pretty broad spread. And as you can see, students geographically spread both at the moment and from their countries of origin from all over the world. And that's very much in the Ertegun spirit. So that's who we are. So what we're going to do across the next hour, I will say a few words to start with, an overview of the programme. Then I'm going to hand over to Maria, who will speak in more detail about applying to Oxford and in particular applying for an Ertegun Scholarship. Then we'll hear from Tristan, who will say something from the University Graduate Studies perspective. And then each of the current scholars will speak about their experiences in the house. I'm sure you'd like to hear about how they feel about being a part of this community, and also something about their experiences of applying and the thoughts that were on their mind and the kinds of things that they did, obviously, to make a successful application for an Ertegun Scholarship. And then after that, we'll take your questions. So please, as we're speaking, do think of your questions and put them in the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to answer all of those. I should say, as you've probably noticed, this session is being recorded, and once it's over, we will upload it to our YouTube channel. So you'll have enjoyed it so much you'll be able to watch it over and over again. Or more seriously, if you know there are people who couldn't be here live and would like to watch it, then please direct them to that. If you find that your questions haven't been answered, or you think of something else after the event, then of course we're always happy to hear from you and always happy to answer any questions you may have. So do contact us by email. You'll find all the details on the Ertegun programme web pages. Okay, so a few words then about the Ertegun programme, the Ertegun Graduate Programme in the Humanities. It was launched in the university in 2012, so some 11 years ago, thanks to the generosity of Ahmet and Mika Ertegun. Ahmet was the co-founder of one of the world's great record labels, Atlantic Records, a label that supported artists such as Aretha Franklin, Led Zeppelin, even Ed Sheeran these days. I should say I'm the first musician or musicologist to have directed the programme, so this is particularly special to me. And Mika Ertegun was a world-renowned interior designer. Mr. Ertegun died actually before the programme started in 2007. And we learnt very sadly just a few days ago, Mrs. Ertegun passed away on the 2nd of December in New York at the age of 97. So this is a particularly poignant time for us in the house, and we actually have spent the last week remembering her, remembering this extraordinary, creative, generous woman who was not only a very distinguished artist in her own right, but whose vision for the future of the humanities has already benefited well over 150 students who now are spread all over the world as academics and doing many other things beside. But also her legacy is that she will continue to help to give others such opportunities. So we're all immensely thankful for her life. I should say her funeral is taking place tomorrow, Saturday, the 9th of December in New York, and we'll be thinking of her and of all those that knew and indeed have benefited from her generosity. For both Mika and Ahmet, studying the humanities was one of the great joys of life, so their legacy really was to ensure that the next generations of the world's brightest young people were also given those opportunities. So each year, the Ertegun programme admits somewhere around 15 students from across the humanities and around the world to read for 1- and 2-year master's programmes and also for doctoral degrees. The scholars are fully funded, their fees are paid, their living expenses are paid, and they also have a fabulous dedicated house on St Giles, which is in the centre of Oxford, in which to work. Well, you get a flavour of it if you look at they're not fake backgrounds. You look at the backgrounds of Vero and Han, they are at their desks in the house at this very moment. And I'm sure the scholars will tell you more about that shortly. They each have a desk, which you may well know is a very valuable thing to have your own desk in Oxford, where you can leave your books and papers and return to it each day to work at. But they also benefit from a rich academic and cultural programme. The house itself was refurbished to the designs to the highest standard by Mrs. Ertegun herself. I've mentioned the desks. The academic programme includes a weekly work in progress seminar where all the scholars and resident alumni come together to share ideas. It's our academic focus for the week, but there's also a series of other lectures and talks by visiting speakers who address very broadly the questions of the value of the humanities in today's world. And we also have some career talks. We invited one of our alumni back only a few weeks ago who studied classical pastoral poetry in Oxford for his master's, and indeed is just completing the first ever translation into Chinese of Virgil, which will be published next year. But then he went to Harvard to study law and is now working as a lawyer in London. So it's extraordinary where a humanities degree can take you. But he was extremely articulate about how he uses what he learned as a classical scholar, how to read, how to argue, how to understand and interpret text, how those skills are still serving him very well in his new legal career. But we also have a rich cultural programme, which includes visits together to concerts and exhibitions and plays and an opera next term, and we go together to other cities. Only the other week, we all visited Bath together, and it binds us together, but we learn together too. But above all, I would say that Ertegun is a wonderful community that, if you like, physically embodies intellectual and global cooperation. And it's wonderful to see how the scholars in this place support each other in really quite extraordinary ways, both personally and academically. So that's a very brief overview of who we are and what we do. If you want to find out more, then do look at our website. It's currently being upgraded, so there's not so much about our current activities there, but you'll still get a flavour of what's been happening in the past. But our social media channels are active, so follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and you can get regular updates, and you'll see all the sorts of things that we get up to on a weekly basis. Okay, that's enough from me. I'm now going to hand over to Maria, who's going to walk us through the application process. Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm just going to share my screen. So hopefully you can all see the first. First, I'm going to talk about eligibility, which is the majority of the questions I receive. There's lots of people are slightly confused about whether their course is eligible, but we do actually have a full list of the eligible courses on our website, and you can see the link on the slide. Unfortunately, course and research content is not at all relevant to eligibility. So I am fully aware that many courses in education, in law, in psychology, in creative writing, obviously could be considered humanities, or you may have a supervisor from one of these faculties. But unfortunately, for the purposes of the Ertegun Scholarship, it is only full-time postgraduate courses that are administered by all the faculties of the Humanities Division, and the interdisciplinary courses which are under the auspices of the Humanities Division. Those are usually joint courses from several faculties of the Humanities. So things like Vera's course, the MST in Women's Studies, the MST in Medieval Studies, in Film Aesthetics, in Comparative Literature, Critical Translation. Those one-year master courses are also eligible. But law and anything else, even if you are taking a fully humanities sort of focused research approach, are not eligible. And certainly no part-time courses, even if they are administered by the humanities faculties, those are not eligible either. Also, you cannot apply if you are a current graduate student at Oxford. So this means if you are in your first year of the MPhil, you cannot apply to get funding for the second year of your MPhil. Also, if you're in your first or second year of a DPhil in Oxford, you can't apply to get funding for a third year. You are eligible if you have just completed either an undergrad or a master's degree in Oxford or anywhere else in the world or the UK, and you are applying for a new full-time postgraduate course, which is one of the ones that are administered by the faculties of the humanities. The only exceptions are a few courses which are jointly administered by some of the faculties of the humanities and the social sciences division, and those are some of the global and area studies courses, mostly modern South Asian studies, contemporary Chinese studies, Japanese studies, and of course classical archaeology. But as I said, you can see the full list on our website. The overview of the scholarship. So Jonathan's spoken a lot about what we do, but at the heart of everything is the mission statement, which was drafted by Mrs. Ertegun herself. And the three sort of pillars of this mission statement, as you can see on the site, are it's supposed to encourage the graduate studies in the humanities, by a group of the most highly qualified students throughout the world who have a plan to enlarge their knowledge, have the desire to extend their vision, and seek the opportunity to exchange their ideas. And I have underlined these because you should always keep them at the back of your mind when you come to writing and answering the questions in the supporting statement, the Ertegun supporting statement. Of course, the scholarship is only, as I said, for humanities postgraduates as defined by the previous eligibility criteria. And as Jonathan mentioned, it covers all course fees. It offers a living stipend for each year of the course that you're on, which is currently 18,622 for 23-24 this academic year. It usually rises by inflation each year. And then, of course, it grants you access to the Ertegun House, its community, the program of cultural and academic events, and a designated desk for the duration of your course. So the timeline for applications for entry into the next academic year. As you may be aware, most humanities faculties, research and taught degrees have a deadline of 5th of January 2024 for Oxford University applications. You obviously need to apply at the same time as you're applying for your admission to the degree at Oxford. And there is a later application deadline, which is 19th of January 2024 this year, for some of the jointly administered courses with global or area studies. Now, contrary to some information I've seen out there, your application for the Ertegun Scholarship will be considered if you submit within these deadlines. So this includes a late January deadline, but it doesn't include the late March deadline. That would be too late because by that point we will have already selected the awards for next year. So just make sure that when you're applying to Oxford, you're fully aware of when your deadline is, and also make sure for the purposes of Ertegun that you need to download the Ertegun supporting statement, which you can find on our website. And you also need to tick the relevant box in the Oxford graduate application form. So you need to complete the statement, upload it to your Oxford graduate application and tick the relevant box. And then I've just outlined the process after that is usually mid to late February. The faculties will select the shortlist and they will interview those candidates. And then by early March, we will have sent out the offers to the successful applicants, and any remaining offers, if somebody withdraws, for example, will follow certainly by the end of March, probably before. Unfortunately, we cannot notify all the unsuccessful applicants. We receive over 1,500 applications each year. So unfortunately, if you have not heard from us by early April, you should consider that you have been unsuccessful on this occasion. The application process. So as I said, make sure you tick the box first when you're preparing your Oxford graduate application for the Ertegun Graduate Scholarship, and then upload the Ertegun supporting statement in PDF format to ensure that there's no problems with the fonts and everything else, especially if you're writing something in a foreign language. As I said, it's available to download on our website in Word format. Please use a computer to do so, because I often get queries from people who are trying to download the Word document on their mobile phone and not finding it. It will automatically start downloading as a Word document if you click the link in a browser on a computer. There are 3 questions that you have to answer, and each question needs to be answered in no more than 500 words. So that's an overview of the application process, and you can find all this information in more detail on our website. So to look at this Ertegun Scholarship Supporting Statement in more detail, question 1. Please explain how your study and career plans will advance this mission. And this means the Ertegun mission statement, which I referred to previously. And you can refer to your motivations and aspirations, as well as the specifics of your previous, current, and future study or work experience. And it has to be in 500 words. So I've just outlined things to keep in mind. You should summarize your research briefly in a way that non-specialists can understand. I say this because there seems to be an impression that the Ertegun Selection Committee has actually seen the entire Oxford application. That is not the case. They see only your CV, the Ertegun supporting statement, and the interview record form. So notes on the interview did specifically for Ertegun. Therefore, they won't have seen your research proposal, and it is always a good idea to make sure that they understand, the selection committee understands what you are going to be researching at Oxford. You don't need to spend a lot of time on that. Don't waste your entire answer on this question talking about your research, but you should summarize it in a way that non-specialists in your field can understand, and that's a very useful skill to have generally. Do mention why you are applying both to the University of Oxford and the Ertegun programme, what drew you to do that, and of course it is the opportunity to highlight what you bring to the table here. So your own experience, your own motivations, what drew you to Oxford and the Ertegun programme, and tie it in together. And please do be specific. Sort of abstract, sort of general notions usually don't go down as well as people think, even though they may sound really nice on paper. Question 2. The aim of the programme is that the scholars shall contribute intellectually to their country of origin or to their community and act as ambassadors for the humanities. How will you further this aim? Do talk about how you will contribute to life at Oxford, Ertegun, and beyond. This does not mean that you have to go back to your home country at the end of your studies. There's no obligation on the or expectation on the part of the scholarship. But of course, if you were planning to go back, by all means, do say that. Describe your future plans and mention any projects, societies, collaborations, events, communities, anything really that you wish to join whilst at Oxford or create, whether at Oxford, at Ertegun House, or in the future, in your future career. And again, do be specific about these things. Then the final question, after reviewing the information about our community on the Ertegun House website, how would you contribute to the community during your time in Oxford and after graduation? So this is a question that many people feel is sort of complicated, or they sort of answer it with generic sort of platitudes. Again, I think you need, as Jonathan said, to have a look at the community. Even though we haven't put up the most recent events there, there's plenty of other events, and we do similar things. So it should give you a flavor of life in the house and the cultural and academic program. And it will benefit you if you think of ways in which you would like to involve yourself in the life of the house. If you have any ideas about events you could propose or any other suggestions after having reviewed the website, do write them down. And of course, this is your chance to showcase your personality. If you've had experience in organizing events, for example, or you've contributed in some way to any environment you've been in before, it's always a good thing to put those down as well. But I can't stress enough that the Ertegun House is a community. And so for people who don't necessarily enjoy being part of a community, there are plenty of other scholarships that give funding only, which might be more suitable. The Ertegun program is unique in that you can choose how much or little you interact with people in the house, but you should enjoy knowing that you're part of a community and in your own way contribute to that. So it doesn't mean you have to be the life and soul of the party or spend 24 hours in Ertegun House, but it does mean that you should enjoy interacting one-on-one with people, discussing your ideas, being part of a cohesive whole. And general advice, you should remember that the long list of candidates is chosen by the faculties. So your Oxford graduate application should be a priority. That is what the faculties will focus on. The Ertegun supporting statement is important to the Ertegun selection committee, which is also made up of directors of graduate studies of the faculties. But also members of the Ertegun board as well have seen your application. So it is important to keep in mind the Ertegun supporting statement specifically for the purposes of the Ertegun Scholarship. Always allow enough time to write both your Oxford research proposal and your Ertegun supporting statement. It can take much longer than you think. And tied into that, do brainstorm before writing. Think about the kinds of things you want to say, all your various experiences, which would be most relevant to this application. Get advice from peers, tutors, supervisors, whoever you think might be a good person to give you some advice on your application. And then find somebody to also proofread your application supporting statement. It would be a shame if something which is very articulate and passionate sort of doesn't receive the attention it deserves because of typos and grammatical errors and things like that. And of course, be yourself. You should highlight your passion, your motivations, your goals in life. There's no good pretending to be something you're not. You want to come across as you are. And for people thinking, how am I going to write so many things, 500 words, it sounds like a lot. It's not as long as you think. So do be quite concise and specific as always. And that's it. You can submit any questions now as we're hearing from our current scholars. Thank you and the very best of luck.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Maria. There's a lot of information in there, but as I said earlier, this is being recorded. So if you want to, after the event, go back to our YouTube site and you can play through it and stop and start. Just to underline a few things that Maria said, which are absolutely important. First, of course, is the deadline. Don't leave it too late. 5th of January for most courses. So there are a few exceptions, but essentially that's the date to be remembering. And bear in mind that the university will be closed for the holiday period between Christmas and New Year. So make sure you get it in good time. And then I imagine that Tristan might say a little bit more about this, but Maria quite rightly said that your application in the first instance goes to the faculty that is supporting the master's or the doctoral program that you're applying for. And it's really important to remember that it's your proposal for those programs. It's your research proposal if you're a doctoral student. That's the most important thing in the first instance, because it's the faculty that will be selecting you. They are the experts, after all. They will understand what you're applying for, and it's the faculty then that will act as your advocates to the Ertegun board, and it's the Ertegun board that will then look at your answers to these 3 questions that Maria outlined in great detail. Now, it might seem rather complicated, but I don't think it's so complicated, and I think once you're on the application site, you'll see precisely what's required, and there are plenty of ways of getting help. So thanks again, Maria, and I'm now going to hand over to Tristan, who will, I hope, say a little bit more about it from the broader perspective of graduate missions. Thanks very much, Tristan.
Sure, thanks, Jonathan. So, I mean, Maria has covered a lot of what I was going to say, because that was a very thorough and detailed presentation. I'm not going to bombard you with more because I want you to remember the Ertegun things. However, there are a couple of things I would say. So, as Jonathan said, please do get your application ready in good time. We will be closing for sort of Christmas time from the 21st of December until back open on the 2nd of January. There will be some sort of cover over that period, but obviously it will be much less than would otherwise be the case. So please do get your application ready. Excuse me. We recommend in general around 2 weeks before the deadline. As Maria said, it takes a lot longer than you would think to apply. And occasionally there are technical glitches and things like that, or you might upload the wrong document. You'd be surprised at the number of people who upload, something other than their transcript. If they, they might upload their degree certificate by accident, or it gets to deadline day and their Wi-Fi cuts out or something like that. So please do get it in good time, because that helps us help you if you get something not quite right the first time. In addition, as Jonathan said, it is the faculty or the department that makes the academic decision on whether to admit you to the university. So that is the first place it will go after you submit your application. So please do make sure that you fulfill all their requirements. You can look at the course page on the website. So this is available to everyone. If you go to graduate.ox.ac.uk/courses-az, that will take you to the full list of graduate courses that we will offer in 24-25. So that's next year. So please do pay attention to the course page itself. The course page contains almost all of the information you will ever need about applying to Oxford. It will show you an overview of the course itself. It'll show you, there's a tab on entry requirements, for example. So that does change from program to program. In general, it is a strong 2-1 or first-class undergraduate honours degree in the UK system. Some degrees are even more competitive than most of the other degrees, and they may require a first-class undergraduate degree, and they won't even consider it a strong 2-1. So please do check the entry requirements tab, as well as anything else that you might need to submit with your application, such as a GRE test. A few of our courses ask for that, but not many of them. And then also please look at the How to Apply tab, because that will show you exactly the documents that you need to submit with your application, in addition to the Ertegun statement that Maria mentioned. So most of our courses, almost all of them, will require 3 references, of which usually 2 should be academic, and the last one can be professional. However, we would recommend all 3 being academic in general. Most courses don't require a separate CV, but they will collect the CV, the information that would normally be on a CV in the application form itself. So please don't upload a CV unless your course asks for it. You will need a transcript as well to apply. That can be an interim or unofficial transcript if you haven't yet finished your undergraduate degree. But obviously, if you get a place come the summertime, we will ask for your full official transcript from your university. And that's more or less it. Like sometimes courses will ask for examples of written work. That's more common in the humanities. So if you're looking at things like history, for example, you may be asked to submit something like 2,000 word essays or something like that. So obviously you would need to pick what you think is most suitable and what best represents your writing and critical thinking abilities and things like that. And yeah, off the top of my head, that's more or less everything. So please do pay attention to the course page. That will have a specific link to your application form for your course, because there are different application forms for different courses, because something in medical sciences, for example, will not require the same skills as something in history or languages or something like that. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you very much indeed, Tristan. And might I just ask one other question? This may well, of course, come up in the discussion. But much that we believe that the Ertegun Scholarship is the best scholarship in the world for the humanities, it's not the only scholarship that's available to applicants in the humanities. And a list of those will appear when you put in your application. That's right, isn't it? Would you like to say a little bit about that?
Sure. No, thank you for that. I should mention funding as well, because money is important. So once you've submitted your application, as long as you apply by the funding deadline for your course, which again is advertised on the course page. So for most people on here, I imagine it will be the 5th of January deadline for the kind of courses that you're looking at that Maria mentioned earlier. So we have a couple of more funding deadlines. So there's the 5th of January, which is the main one, and then the other one is the 19th of January, which Maria mentioned as well. As long as you apply by those funding deadlines, you'll automatically be considered for most of the funding that the university offers for graduate study in 2024-25. However, obviously there are some scholarships that require extra supporting statements, such as Ertegun. There are a few others on the form that you will be able to see when you log into your application, which you can tick, and sometimes they will need an extra supporting statement as well. On our website, if you go to the graduate website, so if you go to graduate.ox.ac.uk/funding search, that will show you a tool that will show you other scholarships that might be offered by colleges, for example, or other external providers that will need a separate application or extra materials apart from your course application form. So it's worth A, applying by the funding deadline, and B, looking for other sources of funding as well. If you're based in the UK or the US, for example, I know there are loans from the government that you can take out, but please be aware those may not cover the full fee liability and or living costs. So, for example, it's about £12,000–13,000 a year for a master's loan in the UK at the moment, or it works out at about £10,000 a year per year of your doctorate if you're applying for a PhD loan. So do apply by the funding deadline for your course, and think about funding early, because it's almost impossible to find funding once you're already on a course. Of course, there is hardship funding if you fall on hard times. There is financial support there, but almost all of funding that isn't hardship related is awarded before the course starts.
Thank you very much indeed, Tristan. That's really helpful. Okay, now this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's hear from the current scholars. And Gustavo has sent us a question asking the scholars how they benefited most from the community. So when you're saying a little bit about your experiences, perhaps you could prioritize your what you see as the benefits. So Vero, should we start with you?
Yes, of course. I feel like it's very appropriate that I speak first, because I did what I said I was going to do in my statement this term. So, well, I mean, since you know, the experience of applying is based around writing those three little short answers, because to me they were short. I wanted to say much more. My experience, I really focused myself on, obviously, the first question is very important in order to position yourself and why you want to go here. But I was much more focused on the forward-facing questions, which are the two last ones, right? And in my response to the third question, which was how will you contribute to the community, I was very intentional in what I included in that statement, and that is why I am very grateful to Maria that she mentioned being specific, because I actually in my statement I proposed the idea of celebrating Dia de Muertos here in the house. So Dia de Muertos is a tradition in Mexico where November 2nd, we gather as a family, as a community, and we celebrate the lives of the people that have passed away in our families. It is a very lively celebration, and I was very glad to bring it to the house. I worked very closely with Maria, bringing it together. Couldn't have done it without her. And it came out to be a very, very touching evening with everyone here at the house. So again, I did say that in my statement, and I did do it when I came here. So I'm very glad I was able to pull that off. And so in answering the question, I guess the thing that I most appreciate, or like that I have benefited from the community itself, is just being around people that are very open. We have really nice conversations, and we also gather together with all of the events that happen, or just having lunch here. It's a really good way of coming together with people. So I really appreciate that aspect of the scholarship.
Many thanks indeed, Vero, and I can reiterate that it was actually a very special thing to happen in the house, and the table with all the tributes was up in the house for a week or so, and it was clearly very meaningful for a huge number of people. But also it was wonderful for us to be able to bring in, you know, the scholars' own cultures and all to participate in that. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move over. It's a bit like the Eurovision Song Contest. We're now moving over to India and to Akshaj, who will say something of his experiences.
Right. So in my case, of course, I think I agree with Vero in terms of the focus of the three questions. I think the two forward-looking ones were also the ones that I had, well, the most ideas while writing them out. But on a more logistical level also, I saw the Ertegun application as letting me say things that weren't necessarily possible for my course application, which still contribute to my identity as a, perhaps, a scholar or a person studying Islamic art historian, however you choose to define it. Because, for example, in the first question, I talked quite a bit about my interest in the process of course, learning languages and my interest in as a literary translator, which is also one of my other identities apart from studying art history, and how that would contribute or make me a good fit for the space that is very interdisciplinary within the humanities, so in a space like Ertegun has. So I think it would be very useful to sort of dig into your own what your own experiences, yes, but if they sort of add up to something that seems appropriate for what Ertegun's mission sort of suggests. With respect to the second prompt, I think it was, I don't remember whether it was the second or the third, but I do remember a specific section talking about, how you aim to contribute intellectually to your country. And I actually situated that very specifically to the study of Islamic art or anything associated with the Islamic world in the context of India these days, which is a very polarized society. I won't go too deeply into that. But I sort of tied that into the project of the public humanities and what the sort of the responsibility of academics is in that context, or when academic freedom is being curtailed. So I looked at previous projects that I have been inspired by or I'm interested in that field, and sort of made suggestions on how I can fit into that in the future. So of course, the message being is that it's really important to look at your specific context, which is what will, of course, tie into Maria's point about being specific in general about yourself and your course and why you want to be in this. And thirdly, I think in terms of course, my approach was slightly different in the sense that I thought, oh my God, I have to write 500 words, and I don't know if I have enough to write that fits 500 words. And in the end, I felt as if I, like Vero, I wish I had more space. But what really helped was doing this thorough sort of a brainstorming series of sessions and not aiming to write all of them in one go. And I sort of, chunked them into separate days and then went into sort of several drafts, of course, just like I did for the main Oxford, supporting statement. And specifically now finally coming to the aspect of community, I think that's something that drew me the most to Ertegun House, and it's what's made me the happiest here. I mean, the amount of amazing people I meet and interact with on a daily basis. And it's very unique to a space like Ertegun House because we literally are working in the same sort of building with offices are right next to each other, and it's a very it's a space that's very buzzing and full of academic energy, I say, on most days. And the later you get into term, it probably extends later into the evening when people are working on assignments and papers and so on and so forth. But it's incredibly enriching, and I think I also put forth some ideas about stuff that I'd like to do with the Ertegun program. And hopefully I'll be able to do at least one of those next term, which is related to my own interests in independent cinema and, the cinematic traditions of sort of film in South Asia and China, especially these two regions. So I have something that's unique to me. And I found people who were also interested in similar things like that in Ertegun House. So yeah, it's a wonderful space to be. That's
fabulous. Thank you very much, Akshaj. That's great to hear. I mean, it's very gratifying to hear what you say there as well. But also, I think what is really important for us as a community is what, as I said at the beginning, and you've just reinforced that, whatever your own particular area of study, is how that relates to very urgent and current issues. And you're talking there about, challenges to academic freedom in India, for instance, and how we in the humanities can, debate these questions, address these questions. What we can bring to those discussions are really very important. Great, thank you very much. So we're moving back into Ertegun House now, and to Han.
Yeah, so I approached my application a bit differently. So for the first question, I guess I took it as a chance to highlight like unique aspects of my professional and intellectual backgrounds. Like I'm probably a little bit different from other scholars in the sense that I was trained in science and like public health rather than humanities. So in my undergrad, I did public health and East Asian studies and biomedical sciences. So I was kind of highlighting how being at Ertegun House would allow me to channel my knowledge in science and humanities into like a interdisciplinary community. And I also talked about how like my international experience studying in China and the States and many different countries, different cultures kind of helped me foster this basically cross-cultural understanding of humanities. And knowing that Ertegun is a very international and multicultural community, I knew it was the place for me to be. So I kind of highlighted these two points and in relation to why I want to study history medicine, because I'm really interested in like medical practices and also like especially in non-Western societies, like how they've been transformed by technology and by the development of global health, and kind of with this interdisciplinary and international background, like I'm able to contribute to this like very diverse community. So that's the first prompt. And the second prompt, I took it as a opportunity to discuss something I'm really passionate about, which is medical humanities education. So in China and in Japan, I actually I taught classes on like history of medicine to high school students. And these were incredibly rewarding experiences for me. And I kind of want to bring it back, stemming from my education at Oxford and what I learned from Ertegun, to kind of host this medical humanities workshop after I graduate, specifically like targeting Chinese physicians and Chinese scholars. And I was thinking about like inviting people from Oxford to like potentially Ertegun as well, to give talks to the Chinese healthcare community. So I proposed this idea as kind of one of the statements, which is like to extend your vision beyond like academia. And yeah, and for the third prompt, I think my approach was to dig up the website as much as I could. So I basically reviewed all of the archives of the past events. So all kinds of like field trips and like talks, webinars. So I reviewed all of them and I was thinking like, which one could I potentially participate in or could I be involved in? So yeah, I proposed like 2 of my ideas, which I haven't had the time to implement this term, but I was hoping to implement like in the next 2 terms. So one of them is about this podcast idea. So like by connecting people from science and humanities, like I kind of want to create a platform for people to talk about contemporary challenges from like different perspectives, say like connecting a historian of medicine with a physician, and like a linguist with a like cognitive scientist. So this is like a very nascent idea that I want to develop on, but the idea is like it not only reflects like my research into the website and actually understand what's going on at Ertegun, but also it kind of reflects my background in both science and the humanities. Yeah, so overall, like, I guess the main point was to convey that, like, because I have this interdisciplinary background, like, I will be a unique, like, fit for the program. And yeah, that is my approach.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Han. I mean, so definitely on the podcast, we've been talking about this, a number of us have, and that's going to develop over the coming term. I'm getting an echo. Are you hearing the echo as well? There we go. But also, I think Han's case just proves the point in a way that, you know, you don't have to be studying history or literature or even music as an undergraduate in the humanities to be eligible for an Ertegun Scholarship. Han's background in the medical sciences and then moving into, as it were, the history of science, and then engaging in that dialogue across those actually very artificial boundaries is a very exciting part, you know, of the kind of activity that happens in Ertegun House. Great, thank you very much, Han. Last but not least, we move to Paris and to Jan.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that the greatest asset of Ertegun is the community, and that is because it has a unique mix of people who are very good at what they're doing, very excellent scholars, from a quite a diverse range of disciplines and backgrounds, including culturally, which makes them simply a really interesting group of people to hang out with, to start with. And the community also, it comes together quite naturally because everyone does end up spending quite a lot of time in the house, thanks to the fact that we do have offices there. There is a rich cultural program. So this term, for example, we did a day trip to Bath, and visits to galleries, etc. So one has plenty of occasions to see others, and so in a very natural, organic way, one does become enmeshed in the group, and this sort of mixture of people being very highly academic and at the same time coming from a very diverse range of perspectives is particularly beneficial if you are interested in some sort of interdisciplinary or transcultural studies. So in my case, for example, I work on philosophy and I try to bring together ideas from different philosophical traditions. And maybe not just philosophical traditions, but also some pre-theoretical insights which different cultures have formulated, and on which one could build a feasible ontology or feasible philosophical system. And so it's incredibly, it's something which is not really done, or not quite as commonly done within most philosophy faculties. And so Ertegun has turned out to be perhaps an even more fruitful environment for me to talk about these problems than the faculty itself, simply because within your faculties, people will be trained within one particular discipline, and they will of course be excellent at what they're doing. But it can become very easy to get sort of stuck in a particular way of doing things and continue within a specific academic tradition. And I think Ertegun, through bringing together people with very diverse perspectives and cultural and intellectual backgrounds, helps one to sort of correct for the risk of just focusing on one way of doing things. So it's incredibly helpful for these reasons as well. And we do a weekly seminar every Wednesday, where every week a scholar gives a presentation or report about something they're working on and some ideas they have been developing. Because it's quite a small and tight-knit community, there are always very open questions at the end. Everyone feels very safe to challenge whatever is or is not said in the talk, and again, it's a great opportunity to present your ideas to an audience who will be coming from a range of different backgrounds or different perspectives, and to refine them without having to focus on without having to get too technical as well. So I think the seminars are one of the highlights as well. I have perhaps less to say on the application front because that was 2 years ago for me. But I think given my specific philosophical interest, the transcultural and interdisciplinary character of my project was something which I think tied in very well with the diversity of the Ertegun community, as I have said before. So I think this was just something pretty natural to highlight.
Fabulous. Thank you very much indeed, Jan. And I can second what he said about the Wednesday seminars. In your faculties, of course, where you will be studying, you will have the opportunity to present and discuss ideas in a very focused way with that expert community. The joy of our Wednesday seminars, as Jan quite rightly said, is that we come from a very broad range of perspectives. And actually the questions that people ask from their own position can be just as valuable in challenging the way you think and making you focus your ideas. Okay, thank you all four of you very much indeed. I mean, I enjoyed hearing what you had to say. So we have a couple of questions here. Let's take those. First of all, we have one from Maya, who asks, for MPhil applications which do not require a separate CV, what parts of the application will the committee access? Maria, would you like to have a go at that one?
Yeah, so actually I am not aware of any courses that we receive applications for that do not have a CV. I'm not sure if that's something that Tristan knows something about, but I would say that if you are put forward for an Ertegun, the faculty will ask you to submit a CV, even if it isn't part of the application, just because the Ertegun selection committee will need to see a CV. They won't see anything else from the application except the CV, the supporting statement, and the interview record form. Which is not something you submit, it's something the directors of graduate studies of each faculty submit on your behalf. So I would say that even if it's not a formal part of the application, if you are applying to the Ertegun, you should have a CV ready to be uploaded as well. I don't know if things have changed on the graduate admissions front, but Tristan can answer that.
Sure. So sorry, just to clarify what I said earlier, the application form will still collect the information that would be on a CV. It will just collect it in a form, so you enter it yourself into the form rather than pre-uploading a CV that you would have written yourself in Microsoft Word or whatever. I'm not entirely sure what gets passed from the department to the Ertegun committee, because that's beyond my domain, let's say. But my understanding is that, I mean, having seen the applications myself, that's what's happening. There are a small number which still would like you to submit a separate CV, but that will be obvious on the course page, and they tend not to be humanities ones. So please, if your course doesn't require a CV on the how to apply tab of the course page, don't submit the CV. But I think what Maria is saying is that you may later be asked for one if the Ertegun board want to see one, in which case you should have one ready to submit. But if you submit one with your graduate application to the university and the course doesn't require one, it will be taken off your application before it gets sent to the department. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
I think it does. I mean, as long as the information that would normally be on a CV is collected, we would get it in whatever format. My experience has been we've had varied formats of CVs come through to us. So perhaps it's a new thing that is being mainstreamed now, that sort of CV information is coming in a particular format. But in any case, as I said, even if your course doesn't require one, you will be required to submit one for the Ertegun Scholarship.
Great, thank you. I hope that answers your your question. I'm going to just jump one question and take the most recent one to come in, which should be a quick one from Anasuya. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name. How big in total is the current Ertegun community? Well, that's not such a straightforward question to answer. So we admit around, as I said earlier, 50 new students a year. Some of those are on one-year master's programs, so they renew. Some are on, as in Jan's case, the 2-year BPhil, so he'll be around for 2 years. And there are a smaller number of DPhil students who are around for 3 years. But we also have some resident alumni who did the master's program and are now studying for a doctorate in Oxford, and who there's some hot desking goes on, and we benefit very much from their presence in the house. You know, there are, what would you say, Maria, something like 30 people or so?
I would say that, okay, within Oxford, because there are also alumni that do not use the house, but still will show up for some of our social events. At any one time, there's at least 50 sort of Ertegun alums in Oxford. But in the house on a kind of daily basis, the maximum would be about 35, 40 tops. And that is made up primarily of our resident alumni plus the current scholars, which this year are 18 in number. But you can see the number of our current scholars on our website.
Thank you. Then there is the other Ertegun community, which is the alumni community, which of course grows every year. And actually this year, part of celebrating the 10th anniversary of the programme, the alumni themselves are launching an alumni group with its own newsletter and regular meetings and so on, which again is a very important part of, you know, the reaching out, and their experience is brought back into the house, so the current scholars can also very much benefit from the experience of alumni. Okay, we're going back to another question here from Gustavo, which is to do a more technical question to do with what you put in your answer to question 2. We should also mention how we could contribute to the Ertegun community, not only our country of origin. I don't have the difference between the questions in front of me. Maria, I think that's for you.
So yeah, for question number 2, which actually is that the scholar shall contribute intellectually to their country of origin or to their community and act as ambassadors for the humanities, and how will you further the aim of the program? It's primarily about not just your country of origin, but whatever community you see yourself being after you complete your Ertegun scholarship. So not so much the Ertegun community, which should be the focus of question 3, but any community that you choose to be a part of. It could be Oxford University if you stay on to do a doctorate, if you did a master's and stay on to do a doctorate. It could be your country of origin if you choose to return. It could be something completely different if you're planning to go off into the work world and do something like that. So it's life after your Ertegun scholarship, really, not so much the Ertegun community. That is the focus of question 3.
Thank you very much. That's all the questions we've had in so far. I'm aware that we've already been going an hour, and we said we'd stop after an hour. If you want to put in another, oh, here we go. Very good. There's one last question. Okay, so this is another question from Maya. Have any Celtic studies students ever been granted the scholarship? I cannot see any on the website and just wanted to double check. Well, actually, we have a current scholar working on the Welsh language. So in that sense, Celtic studies, yes, indeed. But we don't offer Celtic studies as a program.
I think we do, actually. It's a new course. It's one of the interdisciplinary courses, the MSc in Celtic Studies. So yes, Jonathan is also new to the community of Ertegun, so not, and also he doesn't really deal with the technicalities so much. So yes, we have never had a student before in the Celtic Studies, because actually it was introduced last year, I think, for the first time as a separate course. There have been students who do research in various Celtic related fields, but not for the MSc in Celtic Studies. But that doesn't mean that candidates, if the faculties themselves and the course conveners feel there's a suitable high-level candidate, it will be put forward. And it's quite possible that, yes, an Ertegun scholar will be the first to get to do the Celtic studies. We have had a good tradition in receiving and giving awards to the interdisciplinary masters, and we definitely had scholars from the initial cohort of the digital scholarship MSM Science, which was also a recent degree. So that definitely should not stop you from applying if you're considering that particular master's.
Thank you, Maria. Oops, I should have known that. There we go. Anyway, and I would also like to say that even though the current director is a Welshman, there's no, bias given towards applicants for Celtic studies. Okay, we don't have any more questions coming in. Our time is up, so I think we'll draw this to a close now. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for your questions. We hope you found it helpful. As we've said earlier, there's plenty of information out there on the Ertegun web pages, on our social media channels, on the university's graduate admissions pages that Tristan was mentioning, as well as, don't forget, the individual humanities faculties and graduate program pages too. Please do explore these resources. And if at that point you still don't feel that your question has been answered, then please feel free to get in touch with us. administrator@ertegun.ox.ac.uk. Well, there we go. That's it. A huge thanks to Maria, to Tristan, to Vero, Han, Jan and Akshaj for joining us. I very much enjoyed hearing what they had to say. Thank you for watching, and well, wherever you are, may I wish you a very good continuation of your day, whether it's morning, afternoon or evening. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Can I just sort of hijack this, because I've seen a last minute question come in, which does look it says, does the committee look on the project itself or on the faculties where the MST or DPhil project is to be carried out in terms of securing the diversity of the people? So as both Jonathan and I mentioned, it is actually the faculties that select the candidates. The Ertegun Selection Committee will receive effectively what is a long list. Around 45 or close to 50 names from the various faculties and interdisciplinary courses. They will not be the ones judging the project or the MST or DPhil project. That will already have happened at the faculty level. They will be looking for other things, for example, how many scholars we currently have from a faculty, obviously the kinds of things that you have said in your statement about how you would contribute to the community, but they won't actually be looking at the specifics of your project. That will be assessed by the experts in each faculty, and it is the faculties that decide that these are the candidates they wish to put forward for an Ertegun Scholarship. So I hope that answers your question, George. And yes, thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.